What is going on, everyone, but particularly what is going on, my fellow Georgians? I've got a wonderful guest with me today, the Georgia CR chairman, Emanuel Hernaiz, but also increasingly becoming my very good friend. Emanuel, how are you doing, brother?
Doing great, man. How are you? I'm happy to be here, man.
Oh, dude, I can't complain. I have been looking forward to interviewing you for some time because I feel like, Emanuel, I feel like you've got a great story. I really do. You know, you've got some stories that emphasize, you know, your family and the reason why you do the things that you do. And you've got a great reason to be in the position that you're in, right? So I want to explore that, man. I want to explore that. And the first way that I want to explore that is I want you to give me a word that describes you. Like over the years, man, leading up to now, what is the one word that you think describes Emanuel Hernaiz?
Methodical.
Methodical would be the word. Well, okay. So methodical. Can you define how that describes you for me?
I think that it's important to see that everything has a purpose and a structure. I like to see why things are the way they are. And it relates to this. I just want to see, why do we do things the way we do? Such as why I turn left, not go right. Why do we elect people instead of just, I don't know, having a monarchy? I like to know what is the purpose of things. That's how I relate to almost everything, including government and my life. I want to know why I do the things I do, because I like seeing purpose in things.
Well, you know, man, oftentimes these feelings, like, you know, I love starting interviews in this way, you know, asking like, you know, what word describes you, right? Because they're not just from nowhere. These words don't just come, you know, out of your head. It's like, oh yeah, this word is me. It comes from a root, right? I want to know, where does that root come from? Where does the root of methodical come from? Where does it derive?
I'd have to say honestly, from the very beginning with my family. I was raised by my mom and dad. I was raised in the faith, and they always told me that life has a purpose. You know, being a Christian, it was, of course, to serve God, and hopefully the things I do are for His glory. But besides that we do things because we want to serve some purpose, whether it be if you want to reach the upper echelons of society, or be a doctor, a lawyer, or even a sanitation person. I think that we need to do things to help our fellow man, to reach some end. And for me, it's helping people's lives, improving them.
So you bring up, this is going in a great direction, right? You're gonna love this. We're gonna start kind of. I want to lean into the family concept, right? You talk about the upper echelons, you know, a doctor, a lawyer, you know, let's say the president, right? What I want to know is that something your parents instilled in you? Was moving up in the world something that came from, you know, your mom and dad? What did that look like, if so?
It wasn't about reaching a certain goal. I know, not saying that it's a bad thing, you know, but they never said, Emanuel, you have to be a doctor, you have to be a lawyer. Nothing wrong with being that. They always instilled in me that no matter what you do, whether it be a mechanic, sanitation, lawyer, you serve people to the best of your ability. You serve that purpose, and you try the best that you can, because that's all we have. We try to do the best we can no matter what. And it doesn't matter what you do. Just do the best and make your family proud.
Well, man, that's really sweet, right? You know, it is, man. You know, I love it when you have these family derivatives, right? Because you start to understand how important the retention of family unit is in our society, right? In Western society in particular. But I want to hone in a little bit more on it. I want to get a little bit more individual. You know, mom and dad separately. I want you to start with your mom. How did your mom instill in you those values? Do you have any stories that you can kind of relate to, or anything like that?
Definitely a lot of stories with my mom in relation to doing things and just helping me grow as a person. But the one that sticks out to me that she definitely instilled in me is finish what you started. My small family dynamic story is my mom finished college with a degree. My father did not, but he's in business. So if you do good in business, it doesn't matter what your degree is, as long as you can deliver to the consumer. But something that she taught in me from her experiences if you do it, you got to finish it. And when I was a kid, it's a small example, but it really did help me to learn how I should do things. Is I did Taekwondo. And she said, okay, are you sure you want to start this? Because once you start, you're not stopping till you get at least some form of black belt. I was like, okay, yeah, I'll do it, Mom. And as you know, trying to go to Taekwondo every other day or go to your lessons, you want to stop or you get bored and you want to move on to the other phase. But she said, no, you said you're going to do this and you will do it. So I ended up going all the way and got my junior black belt. I forget about the rank if it counts, but it's like a red and black, half red, half black. They told me it was my junior black belt. And yeah, she said, okay, now you can stop. And I stopped.
I love it, dude. You know, unbeknownst to Emanuel and the viewers, after the show, you're actually going to show me a couple moves.
Oh yeah, for sure. I'll show you. You know, Michelangelo is my good friend.
Oh yeah, is he the turtle one, right? Yeah, the turtle. Oh, yeah. He's totally real. Yeah, I see him down in the sewers every now and then when I go on a Sunday.
Good pizza.
Oh really?
Yeah, good.
Knows the best in town.
Yeah.
Interesting. I'll have to ask you about that later too. All right, next. Here's something else, right? So we have the mother, right? I want to explore the father. I want to explore how your father played a role in teaching you about, you know, the hard work concept, the idea to be the individual who you are, this methodical, right? Keeping it on terms with methodical. How did your father play into that value?
My dad always wanted me to learn and to think, to understand why things are the way they are, why you should or should not do certain things. And a great story that he taught me, you know, and is one time when I was, you know, a little kid, I can't remember, 8 to 10, around that time. He owned an older car back then, and it was one of the ones when they used to have cigarette lighters. And he said, Emanuel, don't touch this or this will hurt you. And he even showed me, look, fire, don't do it. And I think I was inside the car and he had to go get something real quick from inside the house. And I was like, I'll just, you know, just stay in here and wait for a second. And like a little kid, you get curious or you still want to play with things even though you shouldn't. I saw it and I was like, it's red. I want to touch red. Ah! And it burned. And my dad came back and said, what happened? You know, of course you're a kid. You're going to cry. You're going to be like, you're hurt. And of course he helped me, but he's like, see? Don't do that. When I tell you not to do something, please don't do it. Now, that's not to say everything your parents, no, parents are always right. Not everything your parents always say is right, but you need to learn from other people's mistakes. And that's something that I've learned that's actually why I very much enjoy history and learning the structure of things, because I like to see what we did before and why we do it differently, to learn from other people's wisdom.
Well, you know, Emanuel, you come from a family that's otherwise not your typical like American family, right? You come from what is it, Puerto Rico?
Yeah.
Yeah. So you come from Puerto Rico. You come from a family and a culture, for that matter, that really pushes the retention of family and things of that nature. I want to know, how did your culture play into who you became, you know, play into the idea of you being this methodical person? Can you talk on that a little bit?
And just in case, I was born and raised in the Peach State, thankfully. But yeah, my mom and dad and everyone in my family are Puerto Rican, and I was raised in, of course, speaking Spanish at first in my household, so I actually had to learn English, funnily enough. But and it's typical with a lot of Hispanic households. It's that you care a lot about your family and being together and wanting to help each other. And that translated to other things of me wanting to help people, to think that I should help other people. They're my fellow man. It's one of the things I should do, as it gives you a good feeling, and it's something that Christ tells us to do, at least in the faith that I was taught. So that's something that my distinct culture taught me, is to really be close with your family and to really try to help them and other people if you can.
Well, okay. So you talk about the importance of family. It's like that show, Family Matters, right? Family does matter, right? The retention of family matters. Your culture, just emphasizes family. Now, some of the conversations we've had, from here and there in our travels together, is you mentioned a couple times that you almost went in a more left direction at an earlier age.
Yeah.
And I want to know, I basically want to know, Emanuel, how did that happen? How did they reach out to you? Was it because of just the fact that you were a minority? That was the only message that you heard? Or was there something more tangible that reached out to a certain mentality that you had within yourself that you felt like you could latch on to? And what was that?
Well, for me, it was that it comes to wanting to help people. That's something that I've always had a passion for, and how best I can use my abilities to do that. And I've always been interested in government and seeing what it can do for people. And that's the original message that got me, is that, well, look, we're here to help people. We want to help people get better. And that fit with my values. Because from my understanding, it's very easy to think of Republicans as cold, or the party of the rich man, essentially. They weren't the party for me, because they didn't want to help me. They wanted to help only the rich. They didn't care about us working class people. And that's something that touched me, because I want to help people who weren't born with as much as they could have been.
In terms of outreach, okay, this is going to be a particularly touchy subject for the conservatives listening. But in terms of outreach, given who you are, given your ethnicity, et cetera, identity politics, right? Did you ever receive anything from the conservative side? Did they ever reach out to you? Was there ever any concerted effort to reach out to your family or things of that nature? And what did that look like, if so?
Honestly, from my recollection, I couldn't remember many times that really happened. I mean, I knew as I grew up, I've got interested more in conservative politics myself, but I've never really saw anything like that. Now, it could be that, my parents are more apolitical. They taught me values more than anything, and they vote for who goes with their values, not really a party thing. But that has been my experience. If I didn't reach out on my own, I probably wouldn't know any Republicans.
No kidding. And of course, now you look at yourself and you're the Georgia CR, chair. It's like you are the antithesis of the left. But here is the thing, man. I'm hearing it's so thematic with what you're putting down, and I think this is a really important lesson. So I'm really glad we actually did this interview, is because you seem to be emphasizing so much family. In that, when you started going down the road of looking up, the right-leaning idea of things, how much of those right-leaning idea of things associated or started associating with the values that were instilled by your family?
It really hit instantly, because a lot of the things that I see great conservative commentators post about is that they don't have that victim mentality. It's that we can help each other out and that the most important thing to help society is a strong family structure. And I would say it's almost self-evident, because if you're raised by a mother and father, you're less likely to commit crime, more likely to get an education, more likely to be well off financially, spiritually, and mentally. And that's what I've seen. It goes back to the old adage that I find very important. Cliche, but sometimes they serve a purpose why they're a cliche. Is if you give a man a fish, he'll eat for a day, but you teach a man a fish and he'll eat for life. And that's the message that I like that the Republican Party can push. Because I could tell you, as a Hispanic, but not just that, because I don't like using the identity politics thing, just as an individual, people want to work hard. People want to prosper. And that's the message that we need to push. It's not that you're a victim. Everyone has dealt with circumstances, but that together, helping our fellow man, we can do better.
Do you think that's something the Republican Party's doing right now?
I think it is. I think it's doing better. definitely it's reaching out to that entrepreneurial spirit in a great way. You could see with some of the policies that the last administration did with investing in the African American community, and of course with funding to HBCUs. I think we're reaching out, but we could always do better, because the issue that I see that can happen at times is during election time, we all care about the minority vote. Not even that. Take us, the young vote. We care about the young vote. And as soon as election time is over, you'll never see from them again. While the Democratic Party, which what they do better is that they actually stay involved in the communities. They're with the local churches, they're near after-school programs. They try to get involved as much as possible, because it's about being your friend and your neighbor, not just being your politician that we reach out to every other month. You know, you actually try to be involved.
You know, my dude, you're bringing up an excellent subject, right? And we're starting to get, I think we're starting to go off into a tangent, but I'll be honest with you, I think it's a tangent worth going off on, because we start talking about culture a little bit, and culture is my domain. I love observing culture and the way that it's shifting slowly but surely. And incrementalism is the enemy of the left, or enemy of the right, I suppose you could say. What I want to know is, I want your opinions on this. You talk about how the left goes into the community and genuinely inserts themselves. And a lot of folks are just like, oh, no, they don't. No, they don't. Yes, they do. You know, we start talking about like the drag queen story hour stuff. What is that? They're going into the libraries and literally telling stories about how, you know, you might be a girl or a boy, but otherwise, you know, it's up to you, you know, a 4 or 5 year old child to figure that out, right? That is community oriented. When was the last time you saw on the news where a conservative fella goes in and reads some kind of, like, you know, pro-America, pro-national, you know, pro-Georgia, Georgia kind of book, right? You know, I haven't seen it. Now, it could just be that the media is not really, you know, propagating that stuff, which is, you know, it is what it is, right? But I mean, in my conversations with folks, you know, they haven't mentioned it. They haven't, you know, thought about it. It's like, oh yeah, we're going to go and, what is it? We're going to go picket, right? We're going to be like, oh yeah, you guys need to get out of there. Well, no, how about you get in there and you go read books to kids? You know what I mean? What are your thoughts on that? I want to know.
It's very much true that we can't be on the sidelines. It's very easy to be a critic, very easy. But to actually go and do the work is much harder. It's something that we need to do better. And I will say, we do have the media playing against us, that they will always push this narrative that we don't do anything. And even when we do stuff, it wasn't good enough. It's important to work hard in your community and really make that difference. And, you know, funnily enough, is something that was kind of controversy, because I'm mostly in the DeKalb, Gwinnett, and Forsyth area. Congressman McCormick of the 6th District actually did they were trying to do a drag thing for children in Forsyth County. And Congressman McCormick instead decided to do, okay, we're going to do it on the same day, same time, an actual family event, and we'll have children, we'll have ice cream, and we'll read them a book. And that's what they did. And it was a great event. You had and the event that they were going to do with the drag one actually got canceled.
No kidding.
They didn't do it. They decided not to do it. And they just decided not to do it on their own. Of course, the media will spin it and say that conservatives shut down drag queen story hour. Well, first of all, good. That's a good thing. I'm happy that happened. I don't want more of those. But it shows that we're willing to do the work. But it takes someone willing to take up that mantle.
Well, you know, and here's the thing, too. It's like you have a story that comes out. It's like, oh, conservatives shut down drag queen story hour. Well, go ahead and tell us why. What was it? Oh, you had ice cream? Oh, you had families come out and put blankets down on a field and have a picnic with one another? Oh, how atrocious. So shameful of us, right? That's the thing. And you start getting into the topic of the media, which I think is a whole podcast in itself. What I think we're moving into is something that I do want to finish up with, you know, because you and I are working, in my opinion, pretty darn effectively in terms of going around the state and doing, you know, college Republican things, right? And pushing for the younger individuals' ideas as to where the Republican Party, the conservative thought process needs to be going, right? I want to know, how is that going for you? What is it like to move into this leadership position as the GACR chairman? How has that played mentally on you? But also, how has it been effective?
I'm happy to be able to put my money where my mouth is, essentially. Because it's always easy to say, well, people should do it this way, they should do it that way. But when you actually take a leadership position, you see the complications that can occur in trying to do it. Not everything is just step A, B, C, and D, and everything will go perfect. Things come up. And it's been great experience for me. And we've had the opportunity, and you as well, to travel around the state. We went down to... I've been able to go down to ABAC. You've been able to go down to Valdosta. I've been able to visit. Yesterday, we had a great event at University of West Georgia, where they hosted a freedom of speech summit. And it's things like that are important. But it's not just that. It's actually I'm very blessed to have been able to have a good amount of political connections and experience, because I've been interested in politics since I was 18 and been working campaigns ever since. And just being able to talk to representatives and legislators in the assembly and in Congress to be able to have them to support young conservatives has been amazing. And that's really the big push that we're going. I want to make more chapters, raise more funds, do more events, and really get the message out there. So I want to say this, if you're in a college and you think you're alone, you're not. There are other people who think like you. And if you ever need to just reach out. We're always available for that.
Well, Emanuel, it was a good conversation. I always enjoy getting to know somebody on a fundamental level. This isn't a type of podcast where it's like, oh, I'm gonna challenge you on your policies. I'm gonna challenge you with every step that you've been doing, right? This is a podcast that aims to understand the political individual as a human being. Why does he or she think the way that they do, right? What was it about their life that just really ingrained in them this thought process? Why do they think this way about policy? Why do they think this way about politics, right? And in that way, you become more human. Yeah. You become less of an intangible figure. So thank you so much for sharing your story, bud. Let me give you a nice little cheers here. I hope you enjoy that coffee mug.